You're listening to Finding Your Future in Food Systems.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to NAFSN. I am Natalie Cruz. I am one of the co-directors of NAFSN. I am also a writer, educator, and food systems professional who specializes in decolonized food work. I'm joining you this evening from New York City. Please put in the chat where you're coming from. We would love to see where folks are calling in from to join us for the webinar. The North American Food Systems Network, NAFSN, is a professional association of people working to strengthen local and regional food systems. We encourage you to join NAFSN if you value a diverse, well-informed, place-based workforce at the helm of this critical change work. We also want to acknowledge that many of the organizations and agencies that do the work of strengthening their local food systems, including farmers, are currently under political duress. Funding cuts to sustainable agriculture and food access programs threaten our profession and America's overall food security. And it is with determination that we continue to host this series so that more and more people understand how essential these roles are to the vitality of local economies, the health of communities, and the responsible care of Earth's natural resources. I would like to now introduce you to the hosts of this episode. We have one of our amazing interns, Jeffrey Hsu, who is one of our Cornell interns. And then we also have our visiting co-host, Aidan Martin.
Thanks, Natalie, and thank you all for joining us for the second episode of the 9th season of Finding Your Future in Food Systems. For those of you tuning in for the first time, this series is produced and hosted by students to help emerging professionals and others navigate the wide range of quickly evolving career opportunities in the community food systems work. My name is Jeffrey. I am a third-year food science and global development student at Cornell University and a student staff member for NAFSN. Season 9 will also be co-hosted by members of the Cornell University chapter of Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences, otherwise known as MANNERS. We were joined by Manners Cornell Chapter President Sema last episode and are fortunate enough to be joined today by one of their chapter members, Aidan Martin.
Hello, my name is Aidan Martin. I am a junior studying agriculture science and minoring in soil and crop science at Cornell University. And it's so great to see all you guys here. It's great to be here with Kim, Natalie, our speakers, and everyone in attendance. Is also very encouraging that more than 150 people have registered for this event. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with all registrants later this week by email.
Before we get started, we'd like to sincerely thank the season series sponsor, FarmWise, an innovative statewide value chain development initiative at Indiana University. We'd also like to acknowledge and appreciate our full year sponsors, Grapevine Local Food Marketing, Roots of Change, Cliff Family Foundation, and Harrisdale Homestead.
It's great to see so many people in attendance. We encourage you to keep your video on if you choose. For our speakers, if you have a better understanding of who is present with us today, please add to the chat your name, location, area of interest in food systems. If you're currently affiliated with a food systems organization, institution, or agency, please add that as well. NAFSN is all about professional networking, so please take advantage of this opportunity to meet and connect with others through the chat today. Through the webinar, we'd also like to ask you to write your questions of our guest speakers in the chat. Jeffrey will curate these questions for you during the Q&A with each speaker.
NAFSN is headquartered in Ithaca, New York, which is located on the traditional homelands of the Gayakono of the Cayuga Nation. And today we have 3 guest speakers with us. First, we will hear from Michele Thorne from the Good Meat Project. Then we'll meet Emily Reno from Mezclada. And we will finish our conversation with Melissa Terry from the University of Arkansas. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and we are excited to get started. And lastly, please remember to put any questions that you may have of our guest speakers in the chat. I will curate them for you after each speaker presents.
So for our first speaker, let's please give a warm welcome to Michele Thorne. Michele Thorne has served as executive director of the Good Meat program since mid 2023, bringing more than 2 decades of experience strengthening resilience across the food chain value from ranch to fork and from coast to coast. At the Good Meat project, she focuses on critical in institutions of food, public health, economic resilience, and environmental stewardship. As the executive director of the Good Meat Project, Michele forges meaningful partnerships and translates complex challenges into strategic, mission-aligned actions. Michele also walks and talks as a small-scale livestock producer and permaculture farmer, raising pasture-raised, organically fed meats, and crafting small batch artisan food products. She lives in Southern Oregon with her partner and their two shepherds, Leo and Sashta. Her favorite good meat meals include slow braised grass-fed short rib and perfectly seared lamb chops. Without further ado, please take it away, Michele.
Thank you, Aiden. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thanks, everybody at NAFSN. I'm delighted to be here with you today, and I really hope you feel inspired by each of our stories today. And that was a great introduction. I'm a graphic designer and strategic marketer by trade, an executive director by choice, and a farmer by destiny. So, like many, my path into food systems wasn't a straight line. It was more like a classic roller coaster ride, twisting and turning loops, both slow and fast, with big highs, terrifying drops, and a lot of uncertain airtime along the way. But it's been exhilarating. Technically, I didn't even start my career in food systems. I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Communication Arts and Design from Virginia Commonwealth University with the intent to create art professionally, much to my mother's chagrin. But I did it, and I did it well. I became a young entrepreneur in New York City who started a graphic design studio. By the way, I had no idea what I was doing then, but I knew that I wanted to control my destiny and make beautiful work. I had great clients, created award-winning graphics, and made a nice chunk of money as a 25-year-old entrepreneur, graphic designer, and art director. I loved making beautiful things that speak a visual or tactile language, and I still do. I help friends with graphic design, I paint, I crochet, and I cook. And now, since my life revolves around complex spreadsheets and numbers at its core, expressing creativity in any way is non-negotiable for me. The creative aspect of my trade has been the through line of my life and career, saving me at every terrifying descent. While building my career as a professional graphic designer, art director, and strategic marketer, I found myself asking one simple question over and over again in the background of my life. The question, which I'll get into in a moment, felt like the seatbelt on the roller coaster, choking me with the rising and falling, keeping me bound to the inherited familial and social ideologies that I was force-fed about food and its origins and its silent but deadly impact on human health. That question was, and still is, why are food companies lying to us? This one question is directly and indirectly responsible for the unconventional direction of my career. Having been an entrepreneur, graphic designer, raw food chef, and author, then moving across the country and earning my MBA in sustainable business while raising a 7-year-old with no family and holding down a full-time job, teaching economics and game theory, being a wellness and outreach director, a New York City girl turned rural livestock farmer in Oregon, a podcast host, programs manager, and now an executive director of a national nonprofit organization. Along the way, and chasing careers anchored by my interests and inquiry, I've woven these transferable skills and experience together into what has become my unique career fabric and experience. So here I am, still asking the question, discovering answers every day and utilizing my skills to put those answers into actionable solutions. I am where I am as a result of professional networking. So when I found out about the North American Food Systems Network, I was really excited to meet Kim and meet Jeffrey and now meet all of you. And I'm just really grateful to be here. I don't know if that was 5 minutes, but that was a little bit about me. A little bit about the Good Meat Project. As I mentioned, we're a national nonprofit organization, and we are I'm headquartered, of course, in Oregon, but we're on a mission to advance an ethical meat system, nurturing the education and connection of all eaters, increasing the resilience of good meat producers, honoring good meat craftspeople, insisting on a transparent meat supply chain for thriving lands, animals, and humans, so everyone can share the joy of delicious, nutritious, and affordable meat. We have 3 flagship programs, which are our Farmin program, which is FARMIN, which is an acronym for our Farmer and Rancher Marketing Innovation Network, where we share education, resources, and technical assistance tools with producers across the country, helping them refine their messaging, their marketing, and effectiveness. We have our BACON program. We're really good at acronyms over here. Our BACON program is our Butcher and Chefs Opportunity Network, where we connect butchers and chefs to help them source and implement whole animal utilization on in restaurants and at butcher shops. And we have our Good Meat Breakdown, which is our consumer-facing portal where we share consumer education to help consumers have the agency to find meat that matches their values and figure out where to buy it and how to cook it. And then we have lots of other resources. But specifically, I want to highlight 2 things. One is our Good Meat Finder, which is a one-of-a-kind resource for consumers where we connect farmers, ranchers, butcher chefs, retailers, and butcher shops across the United States that center transparency in their sourcing so that consumers can have the agency to choose where they want to buy their meat or where they want to go to a restaurant or a butcher shop that matches their values. And so you can see that at goodmeatproject.org. And also we have our Good Meat Journals, and these are quarterly publications that highlight these craftspeople that bring meat to our tables every season. And so we are getting ready to enter the season of the butcher. That's in the fall. In the winter is the season of the chef. In the spring is the season of the farmer. And in the summer is the season of the eater. And in each and every one of those journals, we share lots of exclusive content, recipes, snapshots that highlight and tell the stories of the people who are boots on the ground doing this really important work on behalf of the independent, small-scale meat producers, butchers, and chefs that often are not seen, but are unfortunately equally blamed along with the industrial meat complex, which is part of the work that we're doing to help differentiate them in the eyes of consumers and encourage consumers to support them, not just in voice, but also with their dollars. So that's all I've got today. I'm certainly open to any questions about any of that. And again, I appreciate you inviting me here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michelle. The first question that I have here is, in the US, a lot of our politicians, they sort of measure their political prowess with the cost of meat or the cost of cheap hamburger or cheap beef, especially in this country. So how do you approach the conversation with people who are very skeptical about paying more for what they see as the same weight or same pound of meat?
Well, first of all, we try to stay out of food politics. We understand that's a real thing, but it really complicates things. Of course, there is cheap meat, and the reason we have cheap meat is because of government subsidies and really Earl Butz. And if you don't know who Earl Butz is, he was the Secretary of Agriculture in 1973 who encouraged farms to go big or get out. And a lot of that is responsible for some of the complexities, both good and bad, in our food systems, but especially in meat production that we face today. When you start talking about affordability of food, you're really addressing a bigger issue, which is food security. Affordability is part of food security, as is accessibility. So, when we talk about affordable meat at the Good Meat Project, we really encourage people to consider buying meat in bulk. And this is an incredible time to take action on that. And the reason that is because beef is at an all-time high. In fact, meat is at an all-time high. And there are so many benefits to buying in bulk. One of them is that it's single source, right? So traceability is easy. When you're buying meat from the grocery store, especially ground meat, it can contain hundreds of animals and lots of unknown things. Buying in bulk also gives you food security. So you're buying a share, whether it's a whole, half, or quarter share of beef, pork, lamb, or goat, and you're getting it all at once. So that means you'll have food in your freezer, hedging food insecurity like what we saw during COVID when there was no meat at the grocery store. It is in many cases, and I can't say across the board in every state because every state is different. Every producer in every state is different, and their pricing does fluctuate, which reflects the true cost of production, which you don't see at the grocery store buying meat for $2.99, $3.99 a pound. So you're actually seeing the true cost of meat. However, buying in bulk gives you the opportunity to support a local farm and a local butcher, which obviously helps with economic resilience of the community that you live in. And the price per pound is one price. So when I, for example, I purchase a whole cow every year. And since, as you know, I said I'm pretty heady in spreadsheets, so I'm kind of a spreadsheet nerd. And of course, I made a spreadsheet for my bulk share. And so I know with every detail how much money I'm spending every year. So it's a little bit of a different way of planning your meals and planning your food purchasing. So buying in bulk really forces you to plan for that purchase. So I save every month so that when the time comes and it's time for me to make that purchase during the year, whatever time of year it is, whether it's the spring or the fall, that I know that I've put that money aside. So we encourage people to do that. What I pay, just for full transparency, when I do my calculations, I pay all in, meaning I'm paying the farmer a set price per pound, I'm paying the butcher a set price per pound, and all in, I'm paying under $8 a pound for single source, 100% grass-fed, organic, not technically certified organic, but a lot of producers can't afford to pay for the certification. But that is a win, especially when you think about that you're getting the whole animal. So you're not just getting the cuts that you know. And it really is a wonderful way to play around in the kitchen and cooking and introduce your family to different cuts like the picanha or the sirloin. Well, sirloin tip and picanha are really the same, or maybe the bavette, or maybe my favorite, which is short ribs, and really, or tongue, or organ meats, and things like that. Making your own bone broth, making your own tallow. It really is a wonderful way to explore creativity in the kitchen, to offer your family a different flavor. By having a whole animal, or at least having a quarter or share. It really is a very exciting thing for me personally to open my freezer and see what I've got in there, because I'm one of those people. I get decision fatigue at the grocery store. So I really don't, I just like it's overwhelming. There's just too many choices in the grocery store. I don't want to have to go through the when I'm looking at meat, well, where is it from? What's in it? Did they put the saline solution in this meat? Where did it come? Is it imported? Is it from the United States? Like I don't want to have to do that. And so that really it pays its weight in benefits for me. And we really encourage people to do that who can't afford to do it. And even if you can't afford to do a share on your own, if you have friends and family or people in your network that share your values, a great way to hedge some of that cost is to go in with others to do it. And you can split the quarter, the half, the whole, a quarter typically depends on the hanging weight of the animal, and you might come home with 50 or 60 pounds of meat. Some of it, a third of it will be in ground. You'll get a third in steaks and a third in roasts and bones. So, we really encourage people to look at meat, the true cost of meat, but also embrace the adventure of buying in bulk because there's so many amazing benefits, both locally and otherwise.
Well, thank you very much. I have one more question, but I will, for the sake of time, unfortunately, I will add it to the chat. But thank you for your time and for sharing a bit about your expertise and also how to rethink how we view meat. I think that's it's at a very important time right now in our
Yeah.
lives. All right, I will turn it back to Aiden to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was really great. Really, really great presentation you gave. So the second speaker for today is Emily Reno. Emily Reno hails from Lawrence, Kansas. She's a child of the 90s, a proud Jayhawk, avid writer, podcaster, yogi, creative, Latin dance enthusiast, facilitator, world traveler, and budding herbalist. She's long held a passion for understanding her own history and heritage, connecting peoples to local food, modeling to others the benefits that come from a deep investment in one's personal development. Emily holds a bachelor in food systems and sustainable agriculture from the University of Kansas and a master's degree in city, urban, community, and regional planning from the University of Minnesota. Emily started Mezclada a 2020 in 2020 with a mission to reduce racial disparities, improving ecological integrity, and building strong towns and empowering rural leaders. With these practices, mindsets, and tools of abundance, um, design thinking, and creativity. She plans to accomplish this through her farm, cafe, and educational offerings. Thank you so much for the time, and I'll turn it over to you, Emily.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Let's see. I think I'm going to push the later button on this guy. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your experience and background. This is going to be a different take for sure. But yeah, buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm super excited to share a little bit more about my journey in food systems. I know that a lot of you out there who are listening are early in your career. And I kind of crafted this to speak to that of the things that I wish someone had told me when I was first starting out as a business owner. For some context, I'm calling in from León in Guanajuato in central Mexico today. And you'll hear a little bit more about some of those experiences in travel. And I'm really excited to share about this today. Okay, so just a bit more of a background. We had a little bit of an intro, but just some additional context. I am a second generation Mexican American. I consider myself a future farmer. I'm a sister. I am a content creator. So I'm a host and a producer of a podcast. I'm a blogger, hardcore environmentalist. And as was mentioned, I'm originally from Lawrence, Kansas. I'm a very proud Jayhawk. I consider myself bilingual at this point, although I did not grow up speaking Spanish. And as of a couple months ago, I just became a dual citizen, both in here in the Mexico and then also US. I am a food systems consultant, and I'm the founder of an ag tech startup called Mezclada. Some of these photos highlight some of my international adventures that I had while I was building my business, basically managing food systems consulting projects remotely from India while I was studying yoga, from Australia while spending some time with family in Costa Rica, and then also my first foray here to Mexico. So I really feel like Mezclada is trying to respond to a need. I think that a lot of the things that I've done in my professional work over the last several years since starting my business back in 2020 are really trying to be observant and nimble and identify what we're seeing. And I feel like the patterns that I've observed is that currently our structures and systems around us are falling apart, right? Like things are just going to the Hail Mary moment, and we see way too much overwhelm, chaos, anxiety, levels of depression, suicide numbers are through the roof, right? And that's a problem. And so I often ask myself, how is it that I can create things in my business that respond to that? And the way that that is manifesting currently is by creating a community of care and mutual support, of creating spaces for connection, whether that's online or in physical space, of developing online education that focuses on financial resource access, and an approach to business development that marries the practical with the magical. So my big kind of like mission around this work is this idea of reducing barriers to land and capital for aspiring farmers, and really digging in to think what's beyond just these technical programs, tax incentives, beginning farmer training programs. What do we really need to do to go deeper to support people? And so the vision that I've really come to the conclusion of is a series of statements, right? It's a world where resource access doesn't have to come at the expense of your physical health or your mental well-being. It's a place where farmers are seen as integral parts of our public health systems and the investments that we're making in them. It's a place where every aspiring farmer is accepted, loved, and embraced for their unique abilities and talents, regardless of their cultural background, language, or country of origin. And lastly, where financial resource access for one's first farm business gets to be fun, playful, and creative, which mostly goes at odds against what most people would think when they're like, oh, farm finance, right? Or lending or loans or anything like that. So the way through which I am doing that currently is food systems consulting that's based in the upper Midwest, but I manage it remotely from wherever I find myself in the world. An interview-based podcast called The Transcendent Farmer, which is designed to inspire and motivate behavioral change. And lastly, online education that focuses on resource access and business development via YouTube content that I put out there, and then also on-demand courses that I've been beta testing. So a little bit about my professional journey, things that I wish that I had heard 4 years ago when I first got started. And just for context too, right? I'm 30 years old. I'll be 31 at the end of August. So I consider myself in many ways still an emerging professional, right alongside a lot of the people who might be attending this. But if you are first starting out, or maybe you're a seasoned professional and you're kind of looking at, what opportunities exist in the food system space, maybe if you're on the edge of taking that leap in terms of the entrepreneurial journey, these are things that I would like to impart to you. So first, don't think that you have to have a lot to get started on your own. And what I mean by that is when I left my full-time salaried position after grad school, I was only working with them for about 1.5 years. I only had a $5,000 contract and I think about a $6,000 FU fund. And that's something that has been recommended to me by many people, is like build up some cash that you can have on hand that allows you to walk away from something that you feel obligated to, or is that, it's causing you a lot of mental anxiety or just stress in your life, right? Just build up your cash so that you have freedom and you have options. Secondly, entrepreneurship really is a mind game. If you can master your mind, you can master anything. And this has come from a lot of time spent trying to understand my own personality type, how I form habits, how I break habits, what are the things that light me up, what are the things that leave me drained, and just spending a lot of time journaling about those things over the last years and continuously coming back to this list of, what's my unique code, right? If I were to surround myself by these 5 things every single day, I know I'm going to be in a good place. But that only came from doing a lot of self-reflection, a lot of, like data tracking in my own form of journaling, and just continuing to figure out, okay, is it still the same for me or has it changed over time? When I chose my business to become a vehicle for my own personal growth, I stopped comparing my progress against other people's standards. And it honestly created a lot more freedom for myself in my life, where I didn't have to think about, this college trajectory of like, what should you do after you get your master's degree, right? I could think about, oh, actually, I want to study herbal medicine right now. And I'm going to start a podcast, even though I didn't have any background in that. Nobody told me like, this is what you need to do, but I followed those passions and those interests. And, I gave myself those moments to be silent and to listen to that inner voice and follow those nudges, even if it didn't make sense to the people around me. Along the way, it allowed me to travel to all parts of the world and continue to discover, what are the things that make me uniquely me, and how can that be reflected in my brand and what I build in my business, and not feel like it has to fit into a box of what other people say food systems careers look like. So by continually investing in my education, basically I've become a leader, right? And you can too by doing the same within your field. You'll become more attractive to employers because they will see you as somebody who's continually trying to be kind of on top of your game, right? And you are the one that's the first to maybe adopt the practice, try out the software, right? And these photos represent those investments that I made in myself, whether it was spending a year learning about AI tools for marketing, or understanding the neuroscience behind manifestation, or taking a course in herbal medicine and natural gynecology. So the bottom line here is to not wait for the once I do X, then I can do what I love. I think that one of the greatest gifts of spending time with people who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s on a regular basis is that they continuously impart this wisdom of life is short, right? Take everything you can to the umpteenth level and have fun, right? Like invest in the journey and process of life, and trust that every door that is closing is for a reason, right? 16 more are opening for you. And you can't fully appreciate what that is going to do in terms of who you will become, right? In the process of having those experiences. You can look back and then see how much you've grown. And I think that that's one of the things that I would encourage all of you to consider as you're looking at, okay, what are my options here? There is no like right or wrong decision. There's just the best decision that you can make for yourself in this moment in time. So with that, I will take some questions and then I'll leave this up for just a couple of seconds for anyone that wants to engage in this work. And also just want to say thanks for allowing me to share.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. The first question that we have here is that as a consultant who offers a wide range of services, how do you find and connect with the clients that you work with?
Excellent question, especially as someone that works remotely, right? So I think one of the greatest gifts of having worked for this Regional Development Commission and foundation before I left was that I developed an insane network across a 9-county region. And those relationships to this day are what have fueled basically the work that I do remotely. So I architect my schedule in a way that almost every year, every summer, I will come back to Minnesota and I will invest in those in-person relationships. I'll show up at the networking events. I'll show up to the Harvest Festival. I'll be in person, in community at a time when other people are eager to connect, so that people know, hey, I'm available for hire. Like I'm still around, even if I'm mostly a remote space for the rest of the year. Like I'm still very much invested in the success of whatever it is that they're working on.
And then you had also mentioned in your presentation that part of what you do is helping to connect or increase financial resource access. In a space and time when that is continuously changing, could you speak a little more on how you sort of navigated that or how you've seen that change?
Absolutely. So I was definitely a part of that. I was one of those people that I think this would have been early February. My biggest contract with the federal government was terminated. That represented 60% of my income. And I very quickly did the calculation of what is my burn rate? How many months can I go with what I have in savings right now until I'm in the red? And luckily, because I have lived extremely frugally, I had breathing room. And so what I did was I used that opportunity to launch sort of a beta course, knowing that the work that I had been doing in the prior year to basically leverage AI tools to help write grants and find funding sources was having a lot of success. I wanted to be able to get that work out into the world, share it with farmers who are experiencing these same things where they were losing out on these cost share programs where the federal government wasn't holding up their end of the deal. And so what we did was I basically crafted a curriculum that combined all of this work of, okay, here's day one. How do you find funding sources just the normal way? Day two, what happens when you introduce AI to that entire experience? We blow people's minds with live demos. It's very cool. And then day three, what's the behavioral psychology element of this, right? Because it's more than just, oh, I have access to information. It's what actually guides your decision-making processes. How is it that your childhood traumas are actually influencing your relationship to money and how you process this information as an adult? How is it that you're getting in your own way in terms of making progress on getting closer to your goals of finding financing or pursuing the opportunity that's right in front of you? So that's really something that has been very, very helpful for people. And we got some great testimonials. And so now I'm working on, turning that into an on-demand learning experience. But then also like on YouTube, I've shared for people in a live demo how I used AI tools to help me write a grant application in real time that was later funded, right? So this is the way that I'm really hoping to get this information out, have this be useful to people and help them in this time of need.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Emily. There might be a couple more questions, so we'll be sure to add that to the chat for you as well. But in the meantime, I will turn it back to Aiden.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was a really great presentation you gave, really inspirational. So our next speaker is Melissa Terry. She is an urban farmer, mother, ag educator, and food policy researcher whose work focuses on building resilient regional food systems through community engagement and pattern thinking. Melissa has a master's of science in agriculture and extension education and has collaborated with organizations such as the World Wildlife Fund, USDA, EPA, University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture. She is a co-PI of the National Food Waste Warrior Project research report and serves in several food system leadership roles in the local and regional national levels. All right, so I'll turn it over to you, Melissa.
Okay, can y'all hear me? Okay, I got this little prompt here. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Emily and Michele, for your words, both very unique and inspiring. So I am from Arkansas. I was born and raised here. I grew up on a farm surrounded by my aunts and uncles who also had farms, but they all also had jobs. So we farmed because that's what we did. And um, my family had just always come from that background. So I didn't really even understand food insecurity so much because I was always surrounded by it. And then tons of just learned experience about like how to can and how to pickle and like, doesn't everybody know how to do this? And no, they don't. And I ended up getting my undergraduate degree in English literature, which was a great platform to do anything. Wait tables. I really just love to read a whole lot. And one of the many books that I love, like one of my favorite author discoveries was Wendell Berry. And so that framework that he introduced me to, that has kind of been a lens through which I look at all of our food systems work that I've done with our partners and on my own, is that eating is an agricultural act. And so, and food is political. So if you look at, for example, what is happening right now with our soybean market. So this is an extremely political, food political, agricultural political environment where our current administration is considering creating a compensation package that was just announced earlier today of $10 billion to compensate a commodity crop market that has been impacted by political decisions and also affected the global market. So this is a big deal. So it's not a new thing. When you think about, writers as far back as O. Henry in 1904 and talking about a banana republic. When everybody who's of a certain age, they just think of it as a cute store to get affordable clothes. But it was really serious and really impacted Central American agriculture and the people drastically. And to this day, generationally, we wonder if anybody wonders why we have migrational pressures from these communities that were affected by banana republics, then that's a really great thing to study, because there is a definite cause and effect there. And so anyway, I was just really interested in that relationship after I graduated from college and wanted to just kind of investigate the world a little bit more. So but I didn't have a lot of money. We were just an ag family. But I knew how to work. So I worked on a couple of different farms at the international level just to get some exposure and see how other people thought about how to grow food and where to grow food and their different cultures and whatnot. And then fast forward, when my girls started school, my husband and I bought, I have two daughters, and we bought an urban farm that's it was 9 acres at the time, but now it's 11 and a half. So we focus mostly on permaculture practices and growing native plants and native pollinators. We have a partnership with the NRCS on our farm to cultivate pollinators for restoration projects. So it's an important part of my life as well as for my career. So based on, the University of Arkansas logo that you saw, I do a lot of academic work, which is really interesting. And public policy is really slow and very slow, and then even slower. But when it's ready, a decade can happen in a week, which is kind of what we're seeing happening right now. And so really understanding how all of these things are woven together. There's a really great organization that was founded by a friend called the Lexicon of Sustainability. You guys might want to check it out. And they explore a lot of the nomenclature and the vocabulary of, like Michele was mentioning, true cost accounting, and just different ways to examine the way words are used intentionally or unintentionally in our political discourse and our conversations with each other. And so that's just I made some notes of things I wanted to tell you about. I did a couple of tours, national service tours with AmeriCorps, and that was really great experience. I highly recommend. It's a great way to get out and, I think the kids now say touch grass, but like really to get out in a community that's not your own and see what's happening from their point of view and what are the resources. And one thing we learned during COVID is, or I hope we learned, is that mutual aid kind of saved a lot of people's ass. And like we did that together. And that's an old thing. It's not a new thing. I think a lot of sustainable practices, sustainable investigations, sustainability investigations are more about like going back and trying to remember like what was effective and what did work and what was a rather than an input output conversation, and that the Earl Butts of the world was more dedicated to a vision of circularity and continuity and how does one system feed into the next system. And so yeah, and how to keep those wheels turning. So I went from doing the AmeriCorps to I worked for our local school district for 6 years, running the school garden program, which I loved a whole lot. And then as my girls were getting bigger, I decided to go to graduate school and get my master's degree in agricultural education and with a emphasis in public policy and how the political science impacts, pulls, leads, distracts from a healthy food system network. And yeah, so that's it's kind of all just based on eating as an agricultural act and like how to investigate that and how to explore that. I think, especially for young people, you know, my oldest daughter is now a sophomore, my youngest is a senior, and so one of the things that I've been having conversations with them about is it's not really about what you want to do when you grow up. It's, to me, it's more about like, what are you curious about? What is confusing to you? Like, and then just really like dive into those topics and go swimming in them. Like, I don't know what permaculture is. We'll go work on a permaculture farm. Go woofing in Peru. You know, join AmeriCorps and help a food pantry in a town that you're interested in but have never been in before. And because I feel like that one of the things that is really hurting my feelings about this moment, other than that does feel like the vibe is the cruelty is the point, and we're just not going to have that. We're not going to let that be the thing. That I don't want my kids to remember that that's the thing in this era. So, like as Woody Guthrie used to say, like we got to keep our hope and machine running. And we do that by being immersed in the things that bring us joy so that we're able to reflect joy back in and solutions-based thinking into a world that has always been problematic in lots of ways, but particularly now, like some of that, we were talking about this before we started, some of our boomerang colonialism is really coming home to roost. And I feel like food systems and healthy food systems and these kinds of networks of practitioners are what can help us be the safety net that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I guess one question that I have is what long-term changes, big or small, did you see from the school lunch programs that you had worked with the Food Waste Warrior Project or with the Community Garden Project within
Oh man,
schools?
yeah, I could talk about that for 7,000 hours. I see Diana Andrews on here, and she was one of my colleagues in that research program. So while I was at the school district doing the school garden program, I was in the cafeteria every day and noticed that there was a lot of food waste and particularly milk waste. And so I wanted to just investigate to what extent that was a thing in our school and what were some particular items that seemed to be, you know, recurring areas for that. So very long story short, because I know that we don't have a lot of time. What ended up happening is because I was curious, I reached out to the USDA and said like, hey, I think we want to do a food waste audit of these students' plates so that we can measure what they're throwing away, and then we can work with nutrition staff. And USDA was like, well, you should probably call the EPA. So I did. And then the EPA was like, you should probably call the USDA. And that's how I learned that there is a very specialized policy environment in the school lunch program where everything inside the cafeteria is the regulatory domain of the USDA. And the second that trash bag crosses the door, it's the regulatory domain of the EPA. So long story short, I ended up working with both agencies, and we wrote together the National School Food Waste Audit Guide, which is now the national standard. And then with colleagues like Diana, like I said, who's on this call, we were able to be in 9 school districts in 8 states and did a year-long assessment and tested our methodologies to see what we learned. And it's been so cool to see how it's impacted some of the policy environments that we're in.
And to build on to that, with a lot of schools, and I'm just speaking a little bit from experience with trying to work with the administration at my high school, where there was just a lot of red tape, and you would go to them with ideas and they would say no, or we can't do this, or the health department would never allow something like this, even something as simple as a share table. What is the best piece of advice that you have for those who want to introduce such programs or conduct a food waste audit, but are facing hesitancy or pushback from administrators?
I'd say the biggest thing is to understand that you are walking into an extremely risk-averse environment, and that any decision may impact the amount to which a school gets reimbursed by the USDA. So that's a big thing. The other thing is that one of the things I learned right off the bat, because the nutrition director in my school district was a personal friend of mine. And when I asked him, I was like, hey, can we do a food waste audit at Washington Elementary? And he was like, hell no. And I was like, why? And he was like, I don't want people thinking that we're wasting federal dollars. And I was like, oh, my bad. I meant a student plate waste study. He's like, oh, how much the kids are throwing away? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, of course, go ahead. And so how you approach it is so important, and really just like respecting the pressures on the nutrition director and the cafeteria managers and what they have to pull off every day and who they have to answer to. And like, it can be a pretty intense environment. And so really just emphasizing like, what we want to do is to show what you're doing and what the kids love best about what you're doing, and then give you that feedback. And then the kids actually run the audit, which is hilarious. And they think all the grown-ups think it's just going to be complete madness. And it kind of is, but in a good way. And it's a great way to learn like applied STEM-based education, because they get to measure and weigh and quantify. And anyway, anybody wants to talk about it, I know we're almost out of time. You feel free to reach out, because I'll talk about it for days.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I see there's a few more comments in the chat, and I'm sorry that we're just so short on time today. But thank you for your time and for sharing a bit about your story and your expertise with us.
You betcha. Thank y'all.
So, like as previously mentioned, we want to extend a big thank you once again to all of our guest speakers for sharing their experiences so generously during the second episode of our season. The speakers' contact information shown here will be included alongside a recording and an email sent to you, so please keep an eye out for that. And now I would like to bring Natalie back into this conversation to facilitate a brief conversation with our speakers to share job searching tips.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. It's been wonderful listening to all the speakers this evening. NAFSN can support you in your job searching activities in several ways that we've shared on this slide. I'd also like to ask each of the speakers, feel free to either write in the chat or unmute yourself to offer any advice for anyone looking for work at this time. As we've mentioned here on this slide, these are really great. This is a great school if you want to take this tool of your phone or your computer and just do like a little screenshot for hard skills and soft skills. These are different skill sets that we believe are very, very important in finding work in the food systems profession. So hard skills like data analysis, project management, computer programming, foreign language proficiency, food safety certification, grant writing, marketing, and social media management, and financial budgeting. Those are some really great, valuable technical skills that you will find in a lot of job postings. But in the same breath, I would say that some soft skills that are never really mentioned are leadership and problem solving and adaptability. And those are definitely things that you want to make sure that they come across in your resumes, come across in your cover letters when you're writing to employers or to HR departments when you're looking for your jobs. Again, if you would like to become a member, please feel free to go to our website, which is foodsystemsnetwork.org. We have a plethora of all kinds of trainings and offerings and opportunities for members and for folks who are not members as well, where you can become a member and you can join our Circle membership that we have. It's like an app / website that you can come and join us. We have over 500 of our members in there chatting with each other, sharing resources. We also, once you become a member, you have access to both co-directors. My co-director is Kim Hines, who's behind the scenes right now in this webinar. Whenever you come and join us as a member, you are offered an opportunity of about an hour-long conversation with Kim and I to talk about your skill set, what you're interested in doing with food systems, what kinds of jobs and opportunities you're looking for. So it's a really, really great opportunity to take advantage of that. And we have all kinds of opportunities for people to join at different financial levels. We know that the food system industry is not a very lucrative career in certain aspects, so we definitely meet people where they are. So feel free to go on our website again and to check those things out. We have it in the chat, so people can just click on that link.
Thank you so much, Natalie, and to our speakers. These are very helpful suggestions. To close, we would like to congratulate Joy C. of Custer, Arizona, for being randomly selected among 156 registrants to receive a NAFSN annual membership this week.
And thank you for joining us tonight. This is the second of 4 episodes of the 9th season. Join us on November 5th for next month's episode featuring Gabriela Soriano from the University of Puerto Rico Extension, Ariel Rivers from the National Association of Conservation Districts, and Sasha Palmer, the Director of School Food Services for Brookline Public Schools. And lastly, to conclude, on behalf of our entire productions team here at NAFSN, including Natalie, Kim, Vivian, Allie, Ari, Audrey, Aya, Emily, Wendy, Daniela, Marie, and myself, as well as our guest co-host of this episode, Aiden, we thank you for being here with us this evening, and we hope to see you again in November. And until then, we wish you well.
You've been listening to Finding Your Future in Food Systems, produced by the North American Food Systems Network. To learn more about our professional development opportunities, visit foodsystemsnetwork.org.